evening. Thanks a lot for staying with us here at CNN News 18. You're watching Nation at 5 with me, Ridhima Bhatnagar, and we're coming to you live from the newsroom of CNN News 18. Over the next 60 minutes, we'll be getting you all the top stories. We're beginning this broadcast with some breaking developments coming in and news coming in from cash-ridden Pakistan. This is news related as far as the aviation space is concerned, where we now understanding authorities within Saudi Arabia Civil Aviation have now given an ultimatum to Pakistan's national airline. The ultimatum says that either you pay the pending dues or there will be no operation of flights, which means even the repatriation flights which was on for the Hajj pilgrims could see an end, which means as many as 50,000 pilgrims that had taken these flights for Hajj could also be left stranded. We're understanding they're dues to the tunes of $48 million, and that's the ultimatum that has been given, that either you clear these dues or there will be no operation of flights as far as Pakistan's national airline is concerned. But this really is not the first time that we're seeing crisis for Pakistan's national airline. You would remember that just about a couple of months ago, they had aircraft that were actually taken back by the lessors in Kuala Lumpur because of these pending dues. Let's also now bring in our colleague Anand, who's joining us also from our newsroom. So Anand, as I said, not really the first time that we're seeing crisis for the Pakistan national airline. There are dues to the tune of $48 million. Leasers have impounded aircraft in the past as well. Let's first begin by understanding, do we have a timeline of how much time does the Pakistan National Airline have to pay back these dues?
Well, they are supposed to get the IMF bailout by July.
Yeah.
So we are already on the 29th. So that bailout has not yet come. And they will now get into another debt cycle with them up. So the Saudi is saying that, listen, they have also got $3 billion parked within the Pak bullion. But that money cannot be touched till the Saudis give them the okay.
Yeah.
So Pakistan cannot say that I can use this $48 million out of these $3 billion to pay you, because the Saudis will say that this is my money.
Yeah.
So you don't touch this money. They are waiting for the IMF bailout, but it's the bigger embarrassment is that the Hajj pilgrims are not going to get
and there are 50,000 of them.
Yeah, and they will also not get to come back.
Yeah.
So till these GSCA payments are made. So this is huge embarrassment which is mounting and increasingly telling Pakistan that they have to change the way they are functioning.
Yeah.
And nations around the entire OIC also very clearly coming out and saying we are not going to pay you any money. Is Turkey going to give them $50 million to pay Saudis?
Yeah.
It's not happening.
Yeah.
So they have to generate this money, or they have to seek an extension from the Saudis, and that will come at a particular cost.
Yeah.
And those terms will be set.
Yeah. So what are the options, Anand? As I said, the crisis is not new for the airline. In the past, there are at least two examples that we've seen where leasers have come and said, we're taking our aircraft back, either you clear your dues. It happened recently in Kuala Lumpur. It's currently happening with a leaser in United States as well. So what are the options then?
The Pak military budget will have to be cut. The Pak military budget has got the biggest bulk of the money.
Yeah.
So the Pak military has to now say, listen, you take the $48 million from us, or the government has to tell them, listen, we'll give this money back when we get the IMF bailout. But right now, please give us money from your funds so that we can pay off these bills. Because then the government, that's the only option that Shehbaz Sharif has. Because then the military has the biggest allocation of the budgets. Even the health budgets are not so big. The education budgets are not so big as much as the budgets that are being allocated. Or the other thing is that the Pak government employees don't get their salaries. And you take the money out from there and then pay so that the Hajj pilgrims can go. This is a call that Shehbaz Sharif has to pick up the phone and dial Asim Munir. That's the only option, and say, listen, you please release some money from your budgets. Because or they will have to go back and into the parallel economy. So they'll have to look from the cash mafia, the drugs, and somewhere raise the money from there to pay the Saudis. But then they will have to then roll it out and then park this money with the Saudis. The other option is that Shehbaz Sharif has to ask the Saudis for an extension and say, please give me till the 15th of July, and hope that the IMF bailout comes till then.
Yeah, which is also interesting is that this is coming at a time when you have pending dues, but ironically you have a very aggressive expansion plan as far as the Pakistan National Airline is also concerned. They're saying we want to expand in terms of our fleet in aircraft, but nobody is asking where the money is going to come from.
What the Pakistanis think is that they will go and promise to buy aircraft, and then they'll give them the aircraft, then they'll say that we will run the aircraft and then we'll pay you back. Now, that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So this is why the astuteness of Mian Nawaz Sharif back in 2015, when he tried to sign the UFA Pact and agreed and said, let's trade with India and work with India as a trade and dial down the animosity, dial down the terror network and all of that, that fell flat because he lost power. Now, he's the one who's got to come back. Or Nawaz Sharif now has to reach out. And the only person who can weigh in is Nawaz Sharif right now, sitting in London. He will have to reach out to the Saudi king. He will have to reach out to the UAE and say, okay, give me a 2-3 month extension. Hold on to the interest payments and hold on to this payment. I'll try and sort things out in the near future. That's the only option. Otherwise, it's huge embarrassment that Hajj, which is the biggest aspect, and you're saying Hajj pilgrims are going to be left stranded. That's really embarrassing for them. More than the payments dues, it's the timing of these this one which is huge embarrassment for Shehbaz Sharif and his government.
True. Anand, we leave the conversation there. Thanks a lot for getting us all those details. We also have Foreign Affairs expert Rubinder Sachdev also now joining us on the broadcast. Always a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you so much for taking our time and joining us here on CNN News 18. How do you see the news that's coming in from Pakistan? Your economic crisis is not new, but now there is an ultimatum that's been given by authorities in Saudi Arabia, by the civil aviation authorities, that either you pay the dues or there will be no operation of flights. It's not just no operation of flights, it means that 50,000 Hajj pilgrims could be stranded.
Thank you so much. Always a pleasure to be with you and an honor. See, what is happening, if I could take some bullet points. Pakistan has to pay back around $20 billion in the next 1.5 years, right? It doesn't have any money, one. Secondly, Pakistan has been putting on collateral its airports, its motorways, toll roads, the buildings of its Pakistan television radio. You know, Pakistan TV radio have about 60 odd buildings across Pakistan, land and building, one can imagine, right? They have been put in collateral. So bottom line, what is happening is that Pakistan has to pay back the debt with the interest to all those who are there. IMF is setting certain terms which Pakistan is not able to agree. Not only not wanting to agree, but they cannot just agree. Like IMF is saying, cut down your defense budget. Bring your 4G foundation, which is a private, this is tax exempt. Bring them in under the tax of their car. Now, Pakistan is unable to do that. In that case, the IMF money has also not been released. Now, I'll come to the Saudi thing in a second. Plus, IMF tells Pakistan that you owe us money, but you owe some big money to China, UAE and Saudi. Come to them on a competitive delay package will work out for your loans. Unless they all agree to a certain term with you, we cannot release the money because we don't know, what's the game plan ahead. Now, Pakistan has also not been able to agree with China, UAE and Saudi how to pay them back. Now comes this last point. Now what the Arab countries like Saudi and UAE have decided, they have set a picture that, you know what, give us your assets. The Dubai ports is in a discussion with the Pakistan government. Both sides, east, west, or maybe one of them will be given to Dubai port. That is, Dubai port will buy.
So we seem to be losing your audio. We'll just try and re-establish that connection. But we also have senior fellow ORF, Sushant Sareen, also now joining us on the broadcast. Sushant, good to have you with us here on CNN News 18. Economic crisis only escalating as far as Pakistan is concerned. The debt also now increasing. More debt now coming in as far as the aviation space is concerned. There is an ultimatum that has been given that there will be no flight operations if this $48 million is not paid back. Who's going to be the collateral damage? 50,000 Hajj pilgrims. How do you see these developments?
I think ultimately they'll sort this thing out because apparently the Saudis have promised them a lot of money and some of these monies will be deducted, which the Saudis will deposit to what the Pakistanis owe the Saudi Aviation Authority. But this is an old-standing problem, not just with Saudi Arabia, but also with many other airlines. Most foreign airlines have in any case stopped flying to Pakistan. There's not enough custom, and then the problem is that the Pakistanis are not paying their dues. So most foreign airlines in any case have stopped flying to Pakistan. Pakistani airlines can't fly to most places in the world, especially in Europe and America, because of bad service conditions, poor maintenance of aircraft, and because they have absolutely no money to fix their airline or their services or the safety of the airline. So there is that attendant problem. Now, with the Saudis turning the screws on the Pakistanis, then of course it becomes even, of course, the immediate crisis is that there are the Hajj pilgrims. In fact, this time the Pakistanis have not even been able to fulfill their entire quota of the Hajj pilgrimage.
True.
Because there is no money to give. So I think you're right. I think basic analysis of yours is absolutely on the mark. That the economic problems have reached a point where literally they are scraping the barrel, and there is no relief coming towards Pakistan from any quarter.
Yeah, but Sushant, the problem is that these economic troubles are not new for Pakistan. The bailout hasn't come from IMF. Tough conditions have been given. This seems like there is no alternate plan as well. As I was discussing with Anand also a short while ago, even as if you look as far as the national airline of Pakistan is concerned, they have almost $48 million that are dues that are left with Saudi authorities. On the other hand, they're saying we have a very aggressive expansion plan. We want to buy the aircraft. It also looks like all of this is kite flying, without trying to understand where the money is going to come from.
You used a very polite word, kite flying. I would have used something more nasty. But yeah, clearly, I think, they're just trying to talk up the markets, trying to infuse some confidence in the market with this empty talk. Because the bottom line is there is nobody coming into Pakistan to invest. There is nobody, the Pakistanis have no money of their own, which they can plow in and rescue their markets. And frankly, when you say that economic crisis is nothing new, yes, economic crisis is not new for Pakistan, but the scale of the crisis this time, the depth of the crisis, and the expanse of the crisis this time, I think is probably the most serious economic challenge Pakistan has faced in its history. And you're right, that they have absolutely no idea, none whatsoever, on how to get around it. So if you look at the budget, you look at the kind of stuff most Pakistani policymakers are saying publicly, it's very clear they've run out of ideas. They're just tinkering around, trying to do more of the same, trying to do more of the same better, but no idea on how to fix the fundamental problems that exist in the Pakistani markets, in the Pakistani economy, in the structure of the Pakistani economy. And that is where the nub of the problem lies. And that is also the reason why the rest of the world does not have any confidence that the Pakistanis will be able to come out of this mess in which they are right now.
Yeah. So, Sean, two things that I want to understand. One, of course, how hopeful do you think the Pakistani authorities today can be that possibly they'll get an extension as far as Saudi is concerned? They'll say that, okay, maybe you paid in tranches or something like that. And the other is as far as the IMF bailout is concerned. Pakistan, time and again, has pinned all its hope on the bailout. But even IMF has put very stringent conditions as far as the bailout is concerned. They want no more dilly-dallying as far as this bailout is concerned. So what do you think are the options, if any, as far as Pakistan is concerned?
Look, it's only a series of bad options which stare Pakistan in the face. So as far as the IMF is concerned, the old structural program, which was the EFF, that is clearly not happening. So that's out. Okay. What the IMF has done is that they've said that, look, whatever was the balance of that EFF, we will go into a new standby arrangement with you, but for a short-term period. Now, this will tide them over for another maybe 6 months or thereabouts. But the kind of commitments and the kind of obligations which the Pakistanis have to the international debt market far outweigh whatever the IMF is going to give to them. Now, either the Pakistanis go in for yet another program, but even the standby program is coming under some very stiff conditionality. They've already raised the interest rate. So what is at about 6.5% in India. The basic policy rate is up 22% in Pakistan. It could go up a couple of notches more because inflation is over 30% in Pakistan. They are asking the Pakistanis to raise electricity tariffs. Already the base tariffs, if I'm not mistaken, are about 24 rupees. They could go up to about 30 rupees a single unit. That's the base tariff. When you add all the other surcharges on it, electricity tariffs could be 60 to 70 rupees per unit. So, who can afford? I can't afford 60 rupees a unit, 50 rupees a unit electricity. How do you expect the Pakistanis to be able to do it?
So time is running out. We really have to see what are the kind of options that are left with Pakistan. So, John, unfortunately, I will have to leave that conversation there. Would like to thank Rubinder Sachdev as well. Let's shift our focus to the other big story that we're tracking this evening, and this is the comment that has come from the External Affairs Minister, Dr. Jaishankar, who's minced no words when talking about the Khalistani problem as far as Canada's response is concerned. The External Affairs Minister, as I said, mincing no words, has said that the response of Canada on separatists and separatist group has been constrained because of vote bank politics. As we pointed out, this is not the first time that we're hearing India take a stand as far as the crisis of Khalistani separatists in Canada is concerned. The External Affairs Minister has also said that yes, because of this constrained response, relations have also been impacted between both the countries. Let's listen in to what the External Affairs Minister had to say.
How Canada has dealt with the Khalistani issue has been a long-standing concern, because very frankly, they seem to be driven by vote bank politics. And their responses have all been, to the best of my understanding, actually constrained by what they regard as vote bank compulsions on them. We made it very clear, and I've done so sometimes even in public, which is that if there are activities which are permitted from Canada, which impinge on our sovereignty, territorial integrity, on our security, then, we will have to respond. So it is something which is I would say, a continuing conversation with Canada, not always a satisfactory conversation, but it is something on which we have been very, very clear.
Some breaking developments now coming in, and this is a CNN News 18 exclusive courtesy our investigations editor Manoj Gupta. CNN News 18 will now decode for you as to why Canada is having a restrained approach or response as far as the Khalistani issue is concerned. We're now understanding, and this is what we heard from the External Affairs Minister as well, that this could be because of compulsions as far as vote bank politics is concerned. We're also now understanding top intelligence sources telling us here at CNN News 18 that Canada is trying to please domestic constituency as well. Our colleague Anand is now back with us in the newsroom. So Anand, we heard the External Affairs Minister speak, mincing no words. He said relations have been impacted between both the countries because the response has been constrained. It's possibly due to vote bank compulsions. What are sources telling you? Why is the response being so guarded from Canada?
Well, Canada is actually saying that India's interference in Canada's affairs is the most. That's what they have tried to say. This was the response of Subramaniam Jaishankar to that comment itself. The reality is the number of letter rogatories or LRs and the number of extradition requests that we've sent across to them, it's a huge file. And Canada has been sitting on it for a while. Let me take a few names.
Sure.
There is Goldie Brar. There is Lakhwinder Singh Sandhu or Landa. There is Hardeep Nijjar, who was gunned down by assailants. There are other Khalistani people involved with the likes of Babar Khalsa International and Khalistan Tiger Force, like Arshdeep Dalla.
Sure.
Arsh Dalla. They are all present in Canada. What they are doing is they are actually co-opting these young kids or youngsters who are migrating from Punjab into Canada. And this entire generation born after 1984, born in the 90s, are being given a particular a skewed narrative about Bhindranwale, skewed narrative about what happened back then, this entire Khalistan or K movement. And a lot of them are going there and not finding employment. They are being co-opted by these gangsters into their gangs. They are being pushed into the drug trade. They are being pushed into the arms trade. They are being asked to do these odd jobs. Plus, they are also part of this entire 40% of the entire logistics business in Canada has been now controlled by the Sikhs. I'm not saying all Sikhs are part of this K group, but these K groups have infiltrated there. A lot of the K sympathizers also are now in Canadian politics. So they have become a strong vote bank, and they have tried to corrupt the entire narrative altogether. So much so that they are doing a lot to harm the Sikh community and their own stature. A lot of them some of them are also going there and saying that we are all doing humanitarian aid and humanitarian work, but going down and ground and softly peddling this entire K narrative. Nobody understands the K narrative clearly. It is clearly a secessionist movement. That's why India is concerned. It is trying to say that we want to carve out a separate state out of Haryana, Himachal, Punjab, Indian part of Punjab. But it does not talk about all the Punjab that Pakistan is squatting on. All the major religious places, Nankana Sahib, Kartarpur Sahib, they're all over in Pakistan.
Yeah.
The Pakistanis are nowhere part of this separate Sikh state at all.
True.
So clearly it's a political narrative. It's been pushed by the ISI. But these people have been entities who've run away, who've been there for a while and who are operating from there.
Yeah.
Goldie Brar's concern is a larger one also, because Goldie Brar is closely associated with Lakhvir Sandhu, with Babar Khalsa International, but he's also a gangster who's running these gang operations with Lawrence Bishnoi. The NIA charge sheet just says they had nearly 700 shooters under their. So they are doing the same thing, the same modus operandi what they are trying to do in Canada. They have done here also, where they've looked at teenagers and in people in their early 20s. They have co-opted them, given them quick money, given them a gun, a false sense of bravado, and got them hooked to drugs. And run these operations. This is where the issue is. And because they have become a big vote bank there, and you have some politicians who are actually backing Justin Trudeau, so that's why they said local geopolitical compulsions is forcing Canada to ignore a larger concern that directly attacks the sovereignty of Bharat.
Yeah, and that impacts the relations between both the countries as well. Anand, we'll have to leave that conversation there. We also have activist Puneet Sahani now joining us on the broadcast. Puneet, good to have you with us here on CNN News 18, and thank you for patiently waiting. How do you see, one, the response that is coming from the External Affairs Minister? He's minced no words. He said that yes, relations between both the countries have been impacted, and that has been impacted because of a restrained or guarded response that we've seen from Canada.
Great. Jai Ma Bharati Ruchika. Thank you for inviting me. So, sorry, there is an echo coming, but I'll come to your point.
We'll just try and fix that.
I appreciate Dr. Jaishankar's statement. And, you know, the thing is, but I would have liked him to be a bit more specific. To give you an example. So, for example, the greatest atrocity, terrorist atrocity in Canada was this, you know, like plane bombing, which happened just a few days ago. There was the anniversary of it, right? The anniversary was a few days ago. All these politicians, they've given a statement that this was a national calamity, a natural calamity, that this has happened and this should not happen. But who has done it? Nobody even had the courage to say that the Khalistani terrorists have done it. So these Khalistanis are not just vote bank. I think they're more a pressure group than a vote bank. But this is what has happened. So, you know, when they took out this parade of Mrs. Gandhi, you know, like being shot by a Sikh bodyguards.
In Brampton,
you see, right. So, again, you know, and we raised a noise and, you know, it became a news. But the only, like the politician, his name is Pierre Poilievre, the national politician who condemned it. He didn't condemn it on Twitter. He went secretly and went on his website and wrote it. So he has done his job, but he didn't want to get, you know, this Khalistani blowback. Then I had to take a screenshot of his website and put it on the Twitter that he has done it. So this is what they are playing with the lives of Canadian citizens.
You've been tracking these developments very, very closely over a long period of time. As you rightly pointed out, we've seen a sudden increase as far as these episodes are concerned. What we saw in Brampton, where the tableau of the assassination of Indira Gandhi was carried out, various consulates have come under attack, temple attacks have also increased. Are we suddenly seeing an increase as far as these episodes are concerned?
No, Ruchika, I give you a very cogent example and you will understand what is happening. And I even sent this screenshot to your producer, if, you know, you can put it. So just few days ago, you know, there was a Hindu kid, you know, young kid, he's a bartender, he's not political. And I found through a friend of a friend that he's completely, he just said this Khalistanis had blocked the road. And he said, you know, like, if they want to make Khalistan, they should go to India, or like, are they want to make Khalistan here? He has said nothing. And this some Khalistani loon, you know, she took out, this is his name, he works here, let's destroy him. And that guy is completely traumatized and nobody came to his defense except, you know, I made some noise on Twitter. But that guy, you know, they put his picture, they put his name, they put his job. And trust me, they would have destroyed even the business, but the business was owned by a Sikh. So they were like, let's get this guy fired, but please don't write bad reviews. So this is what they do to an average, you know, Indian or something. And this is the bullying they do. And I think it is a big shame. I think the Indian consulate should have come out. Like, this is the harassment that is happening. But no politician, whether from India or from Canada, spoke in his defense. So this is how they terrorize everybody into
when the
submission.
External Affairs Minister says that relations have been impacted between both the countries, we feel the guarded response by Canada is because of vote bank politics. How do you see that comment? Do you think there is a compulsion as far as vote bank politics is concerned, and that is why we're not seeing the Canadian authorities be more stringent?
No, Ridhima, like he has said, impacted. I want to see the outcome. So like in international, everybody knows, you don't even name the terrorists who have done it. So what are you doing? We share high commissioner level relations with Canada, which is the highest. I think we should degrade it to charge the affairs level. I actually want to see action, not statement that they have been impacted. I want the diplomatic relations to be degraded by this country, which is doing, what Pakistan was doing with America. They have become basically, you do terror incidents from here and you use this state and the state to inflict terror on India. And this is what Captain Amrinder Singh has said, I don't know how many years ago, that Canada should be put charged for terrorism, abetting terrorism.
So considering the fact that India is now not mincing words and also saying that we do know there is a restrained response coming in from Canada and relations are being impacted, will we actually see Canada take some more stringent action? Puneet, we'll have to leave that conversation there. Thanks a lot for joining us here on CNN News 18. Time for us to slip into a very short break. We're coming back with lots more.